che comunque il calcio è imprevedibile e le cose non sono mai scontate, quindi è anche la bellezza, no, di questo sport.
Io rappresentavo per questa squadra, era quello che non mollava mai, quello che doveva fare stare sempre su il morale, ma io mi ci trovavo bene perché sono sempre stato uno che mi piaceva dare fuoco ai miei compagni, caricarli prima delle partite.
Il mio sogno si è avverato, è uno dei sogni dei bambini, di tanti bambini.
Il gol è un qualcosa per la gente che riusciamo a fare diventare matti, riusciamo a fare diventare felici e contenti.
Con questa maglia devo veramente fare una performance diversa perché sto rappresentando.
Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hope you're good wherever you are, because as we know, the club isn't great. But we're here and we're back to present another episode for you, our dear fellow Milan brothers, our comrades, if you can call us that, because we know it's going to be another tough week. And like the description says, glad that hell has frozen over, but we still keep soldiering on. And do I have here? Another amazing, great co-host. Shane is in the house, guys.
How are you? You all right? Good to, not physically see everyone, but yeah, it's good to be back. Is this 2 weeks in a row, Husney, where it's been me and you? This is some sort of record, I think. I don't think that's happened since, like...
Yeah, this is the... we'll call this run the originals, right?
Yeah.
Or the deluded ones.
2 weeks in a row, man. Jesus Christ. Anyway. All right.
But it's the second week that just Shane and I, and John is away, so we're going to miss a bit of the quality in terms of presenting skills, but guess what? We're learning a little bit. Before we actually get to what we have for today, I just want to say a big thank you. Shane, I'm not so sure if you realize this, but we've actually crossed the 200 subscriber mark. Some of you may be laughing because you're used to seeing channels with thousands, if not millions of subscribers, but for us, this might as well be 200,000 because it's great that we have a little community, and we started all the way back when we were chasing 20 subscribers. So how do you feel about that, Shane?
I remember we started chasing anyone that would listen to us at the start, so that was funny. Dude, yeah, it's been good, man. It seems to be getting better all the time. I think the cool thing is the longer you go and you do things like this, the more people that you meet that are kind of similar in the way that you think, right? And then it kind of grows organically because of that. So it's just been it's been full of great moments, guys, And just I'm sure I don't want to talk for Husney, of course, but just I think we both feel the same, as does John and as does Nico. But, it's been great being able to share these moments with you. And it really helps, especially for the decade-long banter era that we're about to run into. So, plenty of sad times ahead, but it's really good that you guys are along. It just makes it worth it because it's very hard to talk about the club sometimes.
Really. Yeah, but it does make me feel a bit nostalgic, Shane. I mean, how we started back in the day using, my God, what was the name of that software that I used? It was free. That's why I used it. For the life of me, I can't remember. Yeah, it never worked. And how we had to get guests on, it was absolutely complicated. It wouldn't pick up the audio, it's a bit laggy, but we've come a long way. Streaming from, I remember that you were in the garden back in Kenya. So that was years ago, yeah?
Yeah, man.
And trying to do our illegal streams. What game was it? I think it was against Feyenoord. That wasn't Feyenoord. PSV. There was
this is made up. We never did anything illegal. Allegedly.
Semi-legal.
We
call it semi-legal, man.
Yeah. Shit. Oh man, it's good time.
So moving on, yeah, it's great. So moving on to some of our more recent pain points. What do you have for us, Shane?
Yeah, so I've done up a PowerPoint presentation, guys, right? So there's two key things you have to know about me, right? One, I'm shit at PowerPoint. Two, I'm also shit at giving presentations on the bullshit PowerPoint that I create. So nowhere near as good as John. However, I just wanted to make something today. Because what's been going around the back of my head quite a lot is the fact that us plastic fans have tended to be upset for quite a while about the situation at the club. And it's because of a build-up of a lot of things, right? And you know the way sometimes the longer that a bullshit situation goes on, you tend to forget the reasons why you were upset in the first place. And they all just kind of coalesce and condense into, more bullshit that kind of adds on later. So I wanted to kind of try and develop a timeline of why us plastic fans are so pissed off with the bullshit club that it is nowadays. So let me just share that now. PowerPoint 101. Here we go. So it's titled Redbird's Tenure at AC Milan. Chronological breakdown of ownership's colossal fuck-up since August 2022. As you can see, so at the top of that, there's an image pulled directly from the Redbird website. It's nice to know that we're their biggest asset, because we're basically plastered all over the front page of their website. So that is quite nice. Building exceptional businesses with outstanding entrepreneurs. Do you know the way, like, if you're doing like a project at college, Husney, and you were kind of like part of that task would have been, create like maybe a website with a splash page on it. And you just come up with some random generic semi-inspiring bullshit, but you knew it wasn't really based on anything. So you just like YOLO'd whatever the fuck you felt like at the time and then just put it down on the webpage. That's essentially what that is, which is very aligned with Redbird. Anyway, right, so getting into it.
Shane, on that point, I think you must be referring to a time before AI. So they probably got an intern to do this, and this is the end product, right?
This is it. This is what happens when you get interns to do things. Although, to be honest, I think an intern would probably do a better job. This is someone like a marketing team somewhere in New York that's been paid like a couple of million for that bullshit on that page. There we go. At least my bullshit on that page cost fuck all. So there we go. Right, so I guess it starts August 2022, right? So pretty much that's when takeover's finalized. But as soon as the takeover was finalized, right, Redbird didn't kind of come in on some magical red carpet that was kind of laid out for them, that, there wasn't fireworks and confetti and everything, right? They pretty much came in and did nothing, right? There was still a maintenance, or the status quo was kind of still maintained, where Elliott management were still involved, because we had Giorgio Forlani that was then, kind of promoted, right, to his magical role at the club, right? So even when Elliott came in, there was still a big grey area, right? And that comes into play a bit later. But back then, we didn't really focus on that as being an issue, because, it just wasn't.
Yeah, you're right, Shane. So if I remember, Redbird came into the picture a bit late. We had, I think, several weeks, if not months, of InvestCorp. So remember, there was that due diligence part of the storyline. They wanted some documents. They signed I think maybe like an NDA that they wouldn't talk about it. Then there was that guy, I don't know if he's from the embassy or Bahraini embassy or ambassador, or someone from InvestCorp is talking at an event saying that, Milan is definitely like a private asset. It's all there on social media. So yeah, your point that not many people saw Redbird coming in, but here we are.
But they fucking came in. As soon as they came in, right, us being, plastic fans, right, the least of our expectations would be that, a new owner comes in, probably makes a couple of statement signings if he can to try and win over the fan base. Us being the kind of self-hating pieces of shit that we are as, proper Milan fans, or sorry, plastic Milan fans in these days, right, we didn't deserve that. So what essentially we got was pretty much a transfer window where nothing really happened. Maldini Spurs was at 35 million on CDK. That exhausted the transfer kitty, because, newsflash, when you have two hedge funds that are kind of, still in control of the club, but hedge fund has just joined in, right? They don't really want to spend money either, and neither does the original hedge fund. So no one wanted a small purse. We ended up getting Divock Origi on a free from Liverpool. Didn't really work out. Which from a non-plastic fan perspective, that's because, Maldini was a terrible sporting director and everything he did was terrible for the club, and we should always back ownership. But from a plastic fan perspective, though, you give any sporting director, a kitty, right? They're fully entitled to do what they want to do with it. The money that he spent on CDK, while CDK wasn't ready, and we were a good nursery for him for a year. He's gone to Atalanta and fucking balled out. So that'll tell you that even the judgment on that player was correct. But like every other player that we buy nowadays with Redbird, they're just not ready. But you remember that transfer window, Husney?
Yeah, there was a few questionable players that came. Other than Divock Origi, I think Sergino Dest was in the same window. I don't remember if Paulo Torre was also in that same window. I know he played that season, but I don't remember if it was actually during that window that he came. But you're right. CDK was the marquee signing. Benny, there were great hopes, yeah, because we had just won the Scudetto the season before, and we were getting to the Champions League, and everyone thought that there was actually be time for a good run into Champions League and also defend the Scudetto. So we needed the reinforcements. But then there was also that segment of fans that was defending how things were done by saying, oh, you don't want to, if I was to use an analogy, renovate your kitchen just before you want to sell your house. So a lot of that BS, but during the same time, I do remember that we also signed the extension for Tomori. So there were a lot of moves being made to the club. But yeah, you have a point that it didn't work out. Pioli was still around, and you have to really question whether we had the system for the players that were coming in or not. Because it was just the Scudetto winning squad and assuming that everything would just fall into place, which it didn't.
Absolutely fair. So, yeah, after that, not a very productive summer. I think it's fair to say, right? Especially for the first one, where Redbird could have came with a statement if they were serious, but they didn't. So, carrying on that, basically in the winter mercato 2023, little or nothing in terms of reinforcements. Keep in mind, right? This is when we had an aging Giroud as a striker. We had Simon Kjaer. As far as I remember, he was injured, so we needed a backup for him. And I believe we might have got in Chow at that point, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
But
Chow was
yeah,
from Schalke. Yeah, there was another signing. Yeah,
that's about right. So again, kind of bringing in not ready players to basically try and stack up your or try and back up your proven experienced players, and never works. But as we'll see, this is a Redbird modus operandi. And again, the outcome was kind of missed opportunity to stabilize, and things were going very poor at that point. Because essentially, I think we kind of we'd gotten so drunk with this Scudetto win that we thought, right, we're going to win the UCL right in the coming year.
Yeah, and
right.
if I remember, during that season, Napoli, they were so they were off the bat. They were really killing everyone, right? They had already quite a sizable lead by the winter mercato, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So again, another missed opportunity. Missed opportunities again, though. Redbird, it's essentially all it is. That's all we got from them. In May 2023, there was the Champions League exit. Humiliating last winter in the semis. Right? Not saying it could have been prevented, because I think the expectation that we could have basically fixed everything in the squad in the summer and winter mercatos for that year, I don't think that that's something that we could expect. But I think with the right reinforcements, we wouldn't have gone down the way that we did. And one of the key points from those two games was Benacer getting what essentially ended up being his career career-ending injury pretty much with us, because he was never again the same player after that. And that was because essentially he was run into the ground. Run into the ground. He was a very active player, right? He wasn't. He's not like a Moynihan, which is basically, stuck between the posts for most of the game. He was out there, and he's consistently running around the pitch doing good things. But then once that injury came, because he was overplayed, he was broken.
You're right, because when Benacer was injured, we had come off that, that axis between Cassie and Benacer. They were so effective when we won the Scudetto.
Yeah.
So Cassie left. So we were left with Tonali, and Tonali in the following season, he was great compared to how he was in Scudetto winning season. Then when Benacer got injured, we were essentially relying on quite a bit of backup. So who were we left with? Krunic. He was using double pivot quite a bit, as well as any other position. I don't remember who else that we had to sub on, but I'm sure there was names in the midfield.
Because wasn't Adley being kind of
You're right.
used at that point?
Adley was joined that year, but the Pioli never found, you could say, a use or position for Adley, right?
And I think Astor Franks was around there at that time as well, wasn't he? And they were kind of messing around.
You are right. I completely forgot that guy existed.
Where is he
What
now?
happened to him?
Is he? Because he was at Fiorentina, wasn't he?
Was he? Honestly, as soon as you mentioned his name, I thought he was still in the squad. Let me check.
Can someone confirm in the chat, guys? Because I'm fairly sure Astor Franks rocked up with Fiorentina. Because I always thought with Franks
he's in Wolfsburg.
Solid. He's at Wolfsburg, so he's back in. Yeah. But that's where we got him from, I think.
I'm not sure about that, but let me check that. I'm also curious. When you mentioned it, I completely forgot that he used to play for us.
Because I thought honestly he would have been a better player than he was. Because when he started, he seemed to have something okay, but then he just, I don't know, it's like he never got a game again.
Yeah, and I think when we had him, he was a member of the Belgian national team. So, I mean, there's a bit of credit to this guy, You're right.
Yeah.
Wolfsburg came to us. We were doing poorly, so he dropped in value, and back to Wolfsburg, where he's
just back to Wolfsburg, and he didn't go to Fiorentina.
I'm looking at transfer market now. But maybe it's Adley.
Okay.
Yeah, you think about
it.
Adley.
Must be Adley. I'm getting confused with then. Yeah. I'm sure I'm sure it was someone else in Serie A because obviously not. Look, if it's not down, it's not down. But anyway. Yeah, so we had kind of all these, just very stock backups, and again, it's just this lack of inactivity or inaction to do anything, and it's like two windows. I would even give Cardinale the benefit of the doubt, right? If he wanted to, being a guy from the US, maybe he doesn't understand all the intricacies of the European footballing season, right? And maybe he was like, look, I'm gonna let the summer get over and done with, right? And then I'm gonna go in the winter, right? You could forgive him, maybe beginner's mistake, right? But he's owned Toulouse for years.
Yeah, but what he did with Toulouse is just to bring them up from the second division, right?
In France. Which it's again like Pobega was used as Pobega as well. Okay, all right, Pobega.
Interesting fact that you mentioned Toulouse. Toulouse is also a mid-table team in France, so there is that. If you want to create the link later.
He set that precedent. All right, he loves managing mid-table fucking teams. Who would have known? So after the very embarrassing, let's say, annihilation by Inter in the UCL semi-final, where the eyes of the world were on us at that point, and we couldn't hide our shame, Maldini came out on TV in an interview, which took a lot of balls actually, and he said, "Look, the gist of it was essentially we need a few more signings to be able to get us to the level where we can be realistically competitive, right? That wasn't looked on favourably by Cardinale, who then unceremoniously sacked him in June, and Massaro with him. So, again, just kind of finishing a period of complete inactivity where you're not giving, a director at the club that has proven results and trophies and a proven trajectory of, things going in a positive direction. You've now kicked him out. And as you can see, plastic fans were completely outraged over the loss of Milan identity and internal sporting leadership. Proper real fans, though, were absolutely delighted because, no one person is bigger than the club, and we always have to back ownership, right? Yeah. So I remember that. And then a bit where apparently, so I'd added this in because I remember reading this at the time, where Maldini had met with Cardinale in a hotel, and Cardinale basically told him, you're being removed from your role. And Cardinale ended the heated exchange with Americans should stick to fucking baseball. And to be honest, I don't disagree. And I don't think a lot of the fans in Europe do either. So there we go.
Yeah, if I remember, a few days after that, they got rid of Tonali.
That was it. And apparently there was words that were said along the lines of, part of where the issues came in was because Maldini wanted to keep a hold of Tonali. And then ownership didn't, and it just, instead of, I don't know, it's like, it's just this thing in life, right? Whereas if you have someone that has, a lot of people said with the Maldini situation, they said, well, look, he's made a lot of mistakes. But the thing is every sporting director makes mistakes, one. And the second thing is that, for all of the mistakes he made, he got us to the semi-final of a Champions League and he got us a league title. I don't know how you're gauging any mistakes against those two great metrics. It's a very silly thing to come back at someone with, because they mention Origi, but they don't mention like a Teo or a Tomori when he was bought first, a Kalulu when he was gotten, a Maignan, a Leao, even Giroud, right? Benacer, Tonali, right? They don't mention it. Basically, the Serie A team, the Maldini, right? If you want to talk about it, he essentially, he built the team that won us a fucking title for the most part. But yeah, people want to judge him on mistakes like Origi and stuff like it. I don't know. The logic is flawed.
More than that, Shane. So a few of the names that we have in our team right now, even were Maldini targets. So you're right about him building the team, but in a way, he also kept the team together. This is what I believe, is that, you can have really good players, but all they need to be is demotivated for them to be completely shit. So Maldini was always there to be like,
Jose,
okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is Teo Hernandez a bad player?
Definitely not. We've seen what he can do.
Is Leao a bad player?
No, not at all.
Is Benacer a bad player?
Nope. None of them are.
Right, Tomori.
Maybe Musa. Maybe Musa is a bad player.
No, forget any of these. Forget any of. We'll come to these in a minute, right?
Okay.
But the players that Maldini bought in, they were playing.
Yeah.
As soon as he left, you could literally see that there was no one showed up. No one has showed up since Maldini has left, and why would you? Except for some of the guys that Redbird have bought in, which will go on to some of their wins, because there is one or two wins that were also basically, being poached by Maldini, right? this team is stopped. And the thing is we're not feasibly, there's no one at the club for them to look up to now. Franco Baresi, who's my favorite player of all time, right, does nothing. He's quiet. He's like a fucking puppy running around the place for Redburn and Elliott. And that shames me to say that because I still remember him as the player. There's no one at the club now looking out for the player's best interest and to get them to gel. You have a Harvard fucking educated fucking, Excel spreadsheet fucking genius, right, who's running the club. Then you have a Bosnian Swede with a fucking god complex, right? Then you have, who else do you have? You have Moncada, right, who's stick to scouting, dude. Stick to scouting, right? That's what you're good at. Who else am I missing, Hosni?
Scaroni, but
There's no point.
He's been there for a while. Yeah.
There's no point. There's no point because of the history of this great club, right? A lot of people will be talked about. Baresi will be talked about. Maldini will be talked about, right? Ibrahimovic won't be talked about. Scaroni won't even be mentioned on the preface of a fucking book. Scaroni won't be mentioned anywhere, only in the index, and that's probably and whoever mentions Scaroni will probably be our next successful, let's say chairman that basically says, "Oh my God, I had to pick up the pieces after Scaroni completely fucked up the situation, and look how I made it better because we won a Champions League." That's the only way he's getting mentioned, man.
You remember
Anyway.
when Maldini left? No, I'm not sure if many still remember this, but there was that check on the Instagram of players, and there were so many within the team posting photos of Maldini.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't feel anything for the guy or you didn't at least respect him, you didn't have to put it because I'm sure Maldini's probably not texting or calling people say, please post my photo on your personal Instagram. I mean, the players really looked up to the guy, and some of them
Hosni,
would have to credit their careers to Maldini making it happen.
Hosni, I know we're just plastic fans, but here's the thing, right? Plastic fans or not, right? If normal fans, right, use their 2 fucking brain cells, right, that aren't wrecked from fucking decades of probably watching too much porn and cocaine, right? What they probably decide on is, is Milan getting rid of a director like this that's been so big to the history of the club as a player, right? But that's so universally respected, right, as a man and as an individual, right? Is this a good move?
Well, in hindsight, it's not. But putting the man that is Maldini aside, and yeah, we've spoken about this before. I really want to judge him purely as a director. I think he was what? He wasn't sporting director. I think he was a technical director or something like that.
Technical, yeah.
Yeah. So purely on that role,
Sporting director
I've
is
said
only
it.
good enough for
Yeah.
Regletare,
And I've been very open about saying this is that he in no ways was he perfect. Yeah. Maldini, just like any other director in any club, he's not going to get every single decision right. No one does. But for our club, he is the man that we needed. He could get the deals across the line. He could meet up with players and get them to join. Because just faxing, I don't know what they call it, what they do these days, faxing or emailing a copy of a contract, he's not going to convince anyone. You have to really make them put the pen in their hand and sign that agreement. And that's why you need the man that is Maldini.
But hold on, before you get the pen in their hand, right? What you need to do as well is you need to convince them that the project is good. Who's going to do that from our club now?
Or in the first place, there is a project.
No, this is it. I mean, who's going to do that now? There's no one.
Supposed to be Ibra, but Ibra is he's a bit like water. He's shifting, he's changing, he's fitting in different mold each time. It's not him, but it's supposed to be, isn't it?
Well, we don't know. We don't know because this is another problem with this ownership. Everything is so vague, and nothing is explained to the fan base at all. I nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. I mean, you can't get a person like Ibrahimovic as a player that characteristic. And I know it said this in the last pod, but just to rephrase it, if a person's main characteristic is they're very firm, they're a believer in themselves, right, and they can rally people around them, right. There's levels to doing that. Maldini could do that by being quiet and by speaking and saying stuff when he needed to say it. Ibrahimovic is talking all the fucking time. Therefore, if someone is talking all the time, there's a higher propensity to bullshit, right? This, you know, and only management this fucking stupid would have hired Ibrahimovic to follow Maldini in a role like that. Because they would have, someone more intelligent would have actually understood this isn't the time or this isn't the place to have a person like Ibrahimovic in the club. He's not hugely respected in the world of football.
You have a point there. You're right. Ibra is known for being,
He's a fucking
for
mercenary,
stories.
dude.
Yeah, and he also rubs people the wrong way. Yeah? I mean,
He does.
he's left
He does.
a bit of a trail of destruction in his previous clubs. You're right.
He does. He's just like this ownership, which is a perfect spokesperson for them. Because honest to God, right, there's not one likable person in this fucking club.
Yeah. So on that point, if you look at the generation that was the Milan that was supposed to be, the 2000s, the early 2000s generation, there is a pool of people there that you could actually elevate to that role. I think. Some of them you could say have gone to do things. Some of them maybe the ambitions are a little bit different. For example, Dida. Dida is part of that generation, but he decided to become a goalkeeping coach. I mean, fine, he's still within our ecosystem, if you can call it that. But
Are you
there
going
are
to say
some great
Gattuso?
Gattuso. He might rub you. I don't know where he can approach guys that he's probably had fist fights with before, but if
I
you look
could.
at some of the icons and what they've been able to achieve, I'll give you an example, and I don't know whether you agree with me or not. Sheva was still doing things in football at a high level. So he was coach for the Ukrainian national team. So he was at that level, yeah. People Inzaghi, I know he's playing his trade between Serie A, Serie B, but networks-wise, the respect is all there. So you still have these players that, okay, then again, it comes back to the ambition that whether they want to take up a role like being a director. But we have some great names out there. Yeah, we have Ballon d'Or winners. We have real outspoken people with good ideas. Fine. Let me put another name. And I know that ownership
Kaka.
doesn't like his character. Kaka. Boban was in that
Boban,
seat. Okay,
yeah.
quite
I know,
literally,
yeah. That's
Boban
the
was
thing.
in that seat. So
This is the thing. Yeah.
the club has ex-players with pedigree that are able to do a lot of things that Maldini did. Yeah, but zero confidence, zero support, need yes men. Many apologists will say that, it's not your money, it's their club, they're running how they want. But look at where we are now.
No, it doesn't. That answer, right? It doesn't. That doesn't fly. And let me explain why, right? Because indirectly, what the ownership is hoping we do is we buy jerseys. This isn't a person who is selling a car, right? Let me think of an example. Okay, so this isn't a car dealership, right? Where it's a guy, you come in, it's like, right, okay, do you want this car? No, it's like, okay, it's fine,
Cardinales
right? Okay.
cars.
Yeah, but essentially, it's like this. This is a football club where the ownership depend on fans to buy jerseys, right? And the best way to get them to do that is sporting success, which I get is a very fan centric thing because you don't support the team because of how the financial balance sheets work. I get that, right? But there is no reason to support Milan in 2026. 2025, 2024, 2020. There's none. There's no reason to. If I'm talking to a kid now, right, and let's say they're interested in the Italian league, they're not going to be talking to me about Milan.
you have a great point, and we spoke about this even years ago, Shane. This ownership has many fans that are grateful for them coming to the picture. Fiorentina is
Oh,
grateful for the Cardinale. Bologna is
yeah.
grateful to Cardinale. We can go through the list. Lazio, Inter, Roma, all these clubs want Cardinale to be in forever. And like you mentioned, because we are this guy sitting in New York City, he's doing a lot of marketing, a lot of recruitment, a lot of sales for other clubs by putting us down. One of the largest fan bases, not only in Italy but also in the world. And
Hmm.
how is he eating at them? Through these sort of actions. But yeah, as I keep coming back to it, his money, his club, we just in it for the pain.
No, I get you, but like at the end of the day, you don't. At some point, if you look at it, what's the reason to watch the games? What's the reason to buy tickets? Forget the merch, because I think any, like, it's getting to the point now where I swear to God, next season, like if I see someone with a Milan jersey on from next season, chances are they're not a fan. They're probably like
Yeah,
us, so they're probably plastic fans, but
there's
like
already a lot of comments about how some people say that the New Jersey actually doesn't look that bad, but
it
we'll
doesn't
see.
matter if it looks better or not. It doesn't matter. It's what it represents. It could look beautiful though. It could it could look amazing. But the thing is it's what this jersey represents. You're not. You're I I can't. I like anyone that buys it. Like it, anyone going around the fucking, like, going around with it and kind of going like, oh, you were probably in Milan on holiday, were you? And you seen it, you picked it up, yeah, and you're like, oh, who's this team? I don't know. I went to see an Inter versus AC game, right? And then I picked up the Inter ones were a bit expensive because they're winning shit, so I picked up the other side instead. I'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But like, you know, anyway, fuck. Let's continue on to the next slide, man, because yeah, this is where it went from just basically passive and useless to actively undermining the club. This is pretty much the point that it happened. So as you said, Hosni, right? Tonali got sold. It could have been a million reasons for it. Ideally, it can. I mean, if you believe that this ownership didn't know anything about Tonali's gambling habits, and he was about to get caught, then it's a bit of a hell of a coincidence that he got sold and then was laid off essentially for a year. So I mean, it is what it is, right? Good to see him doing well at Newcastle right now, but as a result of the Tonali proceeds, right? We got in shiny new things, which again, for us plastic fans, we weren't convinced by shiny new things. What we'd said is, we don't trust the Billy Bean's magic algorithms, right? For the non-plastic true Milan fans, right? True Milan fans, they loved all these signings because, shiny new things automatically means fucking good, right? And good quality players, right? So the only two that really worked out from the sale of Tonali, which was Tijani Rangers, who's, we'll talk about him in a minute. Christian Pulisic. Pulisic didn't need any scouting, let's be honest.
Yeah, and he's on our radio for quite a while. Yeah.
He's we've been looking at him for quite a while. He didn't need any scouting, to be honest. But look, again, we picked up Rangers and we picked up Pulisic. Two good boys. Looking at it now. Rightfully so, though. Fans felt betrayed again, as if they weren't let down by a full year of complete marketing inactivity, right? Tonali, which a lot had seen as a potential future captain, of this club as a Milan fan. You know, but then when you look at the Pulisic, right? You know, who did we get that season? So we got Musa, Chukwueze, RLC, Okafor, Jovic, and Luca Romero, and Terracciano, I think, later on in the window in the January Mercato. So, you know, it's not looking good in terms of hit rate. You know,
Yeah, and Sportiello, I think, came also that.
Sportiello as well.
Yeah.
Okay. The guy that is he even our backup anymore?
I haven't seen him in a while. I don't know who's still in the club. I mean, when Florence came on yesterday, I had absolutely forgot that the man existed. But yeah, he's still being paid.
That's it. I mean, and he's on a decent wage too, so it's nice out of Maldini to do that. That was a nice favor before he left. But then, so all these players, they were in the summer mercato, right? Let's see how that goes. So a couple of months later, October 2023, right? So what? Less than 2 months after all of these great shiny new things that only real Milan fans could appreciate at the time. Us plastic fans didn't like a lot of these new signings, but you know, every new signing is great, right? To the real Milan fans. The new squad lacked fucking chemistry. We're missing Tonali hugely. You know, you could tell why these signings were put together with someone that doesn't have an understanding about basically even the basic essence of the game. Just horrific. Hard to see, but you could see at that point, I believe we were, what was it, 6 points behind Inter going into November. And, you know, to further compound that awful fucking season, eliminated from the Champions League in the group stage. And keep in mind that the year before we've been in the semi-final. So we're in the semi-final the year before, and we're eliminated from the group stage. And I'm sorry, but like, you know, for people saying that's a hard group, right? Every group in the Champions League is hard, but you know, with the right people in charge and the right, you know, signings for the last two mercatos, we could win that group. PSG were not where they're at now, Hosni, right? Dortmund were falling off. Newcastle were newly in the competition. You know?
Yeah, you're right, Shane. So my take on the Champions League and how it usually plays out, because it happened to us this season, as you've mentioned, is dependent about the team, what they're going through in their leagues, what fixtures they have. All that has a factor to play, because if they're going through an injury crisis, you're not playing against their best 11, by the way. Same thing happened to us. If we are going through injury crisis, this is maybe not the Milan that you ideally want to start with. So that chance always does come along, and you don't need to win every game. There's also another thing. Win the games that you can, your home games, take one away win against one of the lower ranked teams. Pretty much that's how a lot of these teams progress to the next round. It's not impossible. I mean, if Inter can do it, realistically, we should also be able to do it, right?
Yeah, you see what I don't like about it though, I didn't like the talk then about it. A lot of the talk then from some pods was, well, it's okay, guys, you know, we're in a very competitive group. But like the competitive is all relative to something, right? And that's relative to the players you have. And if you haven't signed anyone for a year and a half, or sorry, if you didn't sign anyone for a full season nearly the year before for various reasons, and then you get in a load of like bolted on players that don't really fit in any system, I mean, what do you expect? It's, you know, there's the excuse that it's a difficult group. Why are we not better? You know, this is the thing, and this is the thing that we'll continuously have to ask ourselves for the next decade while this miraculous new stadium is going to be built, because this is not going to get any better. We'll go into the reasons why now towards the end, but Jesus Christ, the amount of pain that we're going to have to go through, like. Getting on to Fahadinho's comments. Sorry, Fahadinho, and I've commented a bit. I've been a bit busy here trying to present a bit, but we also have AGF as well. Hi, bro. Hello. How are you? It's one of your buddies, isn't he, or is he new to the channel? If he's new to the channel, welcome AGF.
I don't know who that is, but welcome, AGF.
Welcome, sir. Sorry as well about the delayed response. Fahadinho, well said, Shane. It happens once a year where I say something that's correct, Fahadinho. Don't get used to it. Just go back to Fahadinho's point. Like and subscribe, guys. Show some love to the channel. Yes, please. We do it only for the likes and subscribes, guys. That's a joke. But yeah, we'd very much welcome it. Fahadinho just going on about the new jersey. It's not just what it represents, Shane, but they got the logo wrong again. They didn't. They're trying to change the logo because they're trying to change the history of the club, because they're trying to make us a mid-level club that somehow can be poured out to young, unsuspecting fans in the United States. That's what they're trying to do. Milan is no longer Milan. It's some sort of bastardized version of what an American hedge fund thinks a European football club is. And Fahadinho was just on about the last transfer window. Missing one more player. There was an Argentinian centre back who's been loaned out. That's Pellegrini, isn't it?
Yeah, this guy. Yeah, I completely forgot him as well. Pellegrino,
says
something like that.
6 of 1.
We also had that striker, I think. His name Pellegrino as well, was it?
No, that was Pellegrini. He's playing for as a Torino now or something.
Yeah. Apparently the youngest prospect at the time.
Yeah. He went away at Lazetic for some reason. Remember, everyone was excited about Lazetic and he just never kicked on. Realistic Milanista. So this is art.
Yes.
Very good. Art. All right. It's definitely not Nico. Sorry, Nico, and sorry, Art, that that was a big mistake last week. But yeah, hello, Art. It's good to see you, man. All right, so carrying on from the 2023-2024 Champions League early exit. What else do we have in the fucking shit show that is Redbird? Yeah, so pretty much you could essentially see that we're so far off the pace in January 2024. Still no signings in the winter mercato. Plastic fan frustration over the financial priorities. Financial priorities being none of it is being given. No new players. Like all of the finances are all being driven. It's kind of all one way, which is incoming. We've all these new partnerships. We've a fourth jersey every 2 months. But none of that money isn't getting spent on playing staff. That's where the issue. And again, me being a plastic fan, I'll have to accept it. Well, he's the owner; he can do what he wants, but that's fine. But it doesn't mean that I have to accept, the product that he's giving me. That's the key thing that they don't mention. May 2024, end of a failed season, finished 19 points behind Inter. Team consistently underperformed, were destroyed by Inter in every game. Unable to qualify for the UCL second round, as we covered. Pioli was fired at the end of the season. Anything from that, Hosni?
Yeah, I just thought about it. Shane, we only passed the group stage only once since we made it back into Champions League? I'm starting to think that. The one where we made it to semi-final, that may be the only time we've actually got out of the group.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting fact. But yeah, I have to say that if you were to plot our achievements against the chart, where you do the x-axis according to the years, so that'd be 2020, 21, 2022, 23, and you were to do that trend line, I think we're trending downwards quite sharply. I mean, we won the
yeah.
Scudetto. The next season we were fifth, but we managed to get fourth after what happened to Juve. Then we were second. Am I missing a year? Now we're
But so here's the thing,
ninth
Husney,
or
right?
eighth.
Here's the thing. So people bring up the fifth place, right? The people that up to then were backing Redbird would bring up the fifth place and say that that was proof that the old director that we've mentioned, right, that he had failed because look, he got a fifth place and it was only because Juventus fucked up. And it was like, do you understand that he wanted to or like that they probably wanted to prioritize a deep run in the Champions League, and because we didn't have anything come in of note in the transfer windows, that there was basically a bare bones squad. So unfortunately, you can't go all out on two fronts, and they prioritize the Champions League. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you're right. So it
You
has to
know,
be looked at in context. If you were to, and we've done the maths of this before, yeah, fifth place with the semi-finals of the Champions League, it's a lot of money. I know that from fourth into getting the Champions League, but let's compare, for example, fourth place in the league versus third place in the league. Not much of a difference, but semi-finals of the Champions League, hell of a lot of difference.
that's it, and they won't be getting it next year or the year after.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
realistically speaking, if you're in the semi-finals of the Champions League, you are like the fourth best team. I mean, yeah, if you look at it very simply, the fourth
sure.
best team in Europe. That says something, doesn't it?
It does, like, and you know, and the thing is you have some hope, even if you get to the semi-final, which I think in a properly run club of this size, ideally a semi-final run in the Champions League is the bare minimum that you would expect every season. If we had owners that gave a shit, you know,
Yeah,
but
you're
oh, it's
right. So
Pellegrini. Sorry, Kim.
yeah,
Just Kim mentioned it was Pellegrini. He was the striker that's at Torino now. Yeah.
okay.
Anyway, I thought you were going to say something, and I cut you
No, no,
off.
no, no. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Ah, that's it. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't then we got rid of Krunic, or when did we get rid of Krunic?
I think we got rid of Cruz, if I'm not mistaken, in the winter mercato. So he did play for half a season, and he came off an injury. Do you remember where Pioli said that he had like a back pain or something like that, and why he couldn't play? But
That's
then, for some reason, Pioli played him anyway, and he started making all these mistakes. Then he went to Turkey. Then guess what? Back problems all gone.
Look, all I'm saying is we have definitive data here, right? That Krunic left in January, and we finished 19 points behind Inter. That's all I'm saying. That's it. You can't dispute that, Husney, right? Anyway, summer 2024. So we were searching for a new manager because Padre Pioli had gotten the sack, probably a year or maybe 2 years too late, but he got the sack eventually. It was a late decision to sack Pioli. Didn't really give this manager or this ownership, you know, a lot of time to maneuver, apparently. So there's a couple of headlines. I said I'd queue these up because it was kind of interesting to see how quickly things escalated, right? So from the 16th of April 2024, there was a news piece. Why the Roma game will be decisive for Pioli's future. 27th of April, so 11 days later, Lopetegui is Milan's choice, right? So Milan's choice. Needless to say, we ended up with fucking Paulo Fonseca, which if you're a serious club, we've already covered this to death anyway, Hosni, but if you're a serious club, you're not hiring Fonseca. You're not hiring Lopetegui. If you had
Yeah.
a, you know, sorry, dude, yeah?
So on that point, and I've put a lot of thought about it, yeah, because it's something that was talked about for quite a bit this season. There are managers. There's levels to this, as everyone knows. There's levels to this game. Some managers will get you certain, or some category of managers will get to certain objectives. You
Conte
can
will get
put
you
names,
to
for example,
Syria.
like Spalletti, Conte, Mancini. Those are sort of names that you would throw out to say that, hey, I think there's a Scudetto run in there. Then you have names, for example, like Fonseca. If you were to ask me, the Italiano, maybe he's at that same range where you just need to get into Europe.
Sure.
So we went for the second category, 4 coaches that would just get us into Europe. I mean, the strength of the ambition was pretty much set in stone at that point of time, and this is why no one wanted Lopetegui, and no one wanted Fonseca either.
No, but
Personally,
here's the
and
thing, Hosni, right?
yeah,
Do you remember I said to you, so remember when, and be honest, guys, right? The ownership didn't give a shit about fan protests about Lopetegui. They probably found something in his contract where they'd have to pay probably an ex-club X amount of million for some reason. So then they just backed out at the last second and picked Fonseca because he was cheaper, right? But even like, you know, Lopetegui wasn't, Fonseca wasn't an upgrade over Lopetegui.
he was an upgrade over Pioli. This is the problem. You at least need someone better than Pioli, right?
Well, the thing is it's kind of, as bad as Pioli was, I mean, compared to Fonseca or Lopetegui, and maybe even Conceição at some point. And Fahadino is a good point. Right, and Kim Barini, sorry, he's mentioned this. Di Marzio, so source. Conte is a thought in the Rossoneri's orbit. So he's a thought in their orbit, right? Before they figure out, fuck, if Conte comes in, he's going to require players that cost money. And then he'll become an afterthought because they'll just get someone hopeless that's looking for work. Like, probably get Mata. You got some sort of fucking experience. Not really proven. They just get that because that's what we do now. We don't go for definites. You only go for maybes with a hope that they work out because the maybes are cheaper. Iglitari is a maybe.
Shane, I want to defend Conte's impact quite a bit, yeah. And Conte, I think he has some very high demands. For those who have seen the documentary All or Nothing for Spurs, and actually the cameras were on him the day one when he was at Spurs and he was speaking to, I don't remember the chairman of Spurs, something
Daniel Levy.
Daniel Levy or something like that. And Conte made clear about the sort of people he wanted in his back room, the cut man and all that. He was very clear about the type of team that he wants around him. But what I have seen is that having that team, having that structure that Conte brings, even after Conte leaves, it lasts a long while. So I'm going to take it all the way back to Inter when Conte was with Inter. To this day, Inzaghi, he's still playing Conte's same 3-5-2, by the way. So it's not just about the man and he's getting a lot of highly priced players. He's going to get you the results. But the system, I think, will also remain. This is one thing that a lot of people, in my opinion, are overlooking.
That's a fair point. So it's not just the case that he's like a quote-unquote transitional manager. It's more the fact that what he implements is in effect kept by a following manager, right? That does make a lot of sense. But you see then, Hosni, right? You're depending on a lot of things there, right? I think if we were to get Conte, right? You would hope that management would back him with players that he wants. Very unlikely. Then you're hoping that once Conte's time comes and goes, right? Let's say it's a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, right? And Conte leaves, right? this ownership don't have the, they don't have the intelligence to do what Inter did, which is, well, if we can get a coach that can actually fit into this system with the players that we have, this just makes more sense than getting, a random new coach that's going to change formation. So it doesn't really, you see, there's not enough football minded people at this club, and the ones that aren't high quality enough. Iglitari isn't. I'm struggling to remember, and this is no offense, because just in case Strasbourg Steve watches this isn't me poking at you, Steve, or poking at Lazio as such, right? But Lazio aren't a big team. Like if they're not like they're not, if you talk about big teams in the league, right? You have Inter, you have Milan, you have Juve. I'm sorry, I still don't even class Napoli as a big team, because what's that, five Serie A's now? 4.
But if you look at it in the period of time they managed to get 2, you have to worry a little bit there.
I don't see it. There's far more reasons why that project will fall apart, and it'll stay solvent. Because we've already seen that Conte is probably leaving in the summer, and like ADL is kind of the type of person that would go around and probably hire Fonseca and then wonder why it doesn't work out. You know what I mean?
Well, he has the money to rehire Conte if he wanted. But there's one thing that I wanted to ask your opinion on, Shane. If Conte were to come, and I know I'm probably talking about fantasies at this point, because Conte shouldn't be in any conversation with this management for the reasons that you've mentioned. If you go player by player and you got a top level coach like or manager like Conte coming in, there will be many changes, but I don't think it's going to be as major as some may make it out to be. Because go through it player by player. If you were Conte, you look at the Milan squad, Rafael Leao. With how Conte does things, you could probably get the best out of Rafael Leao, which will make him quite close to world class. Theo Hernandez, starting left, what do you call it? I don't know, we call it left wing back or left midfielder for France. You could probably get the best out of this guy. Mike Maignan, you could probably get the best out of this guy because he's a starting keeper for France. Christian Pulisic, okay, but he's American, but you see what he can do in this team and how things are. You probably don't have to do much. So, what are then the positions that you tend to consider that? Oh, we probably need a bit of a fix. Maybe the striker. Then again, the jury's still out because Jimenez. 6 months in.
There's something with Jimenez. I think there is something there. He just needs.
Maybe Jimenez stays midfielders. If Reindeers is kept, fine. But then you have to say for Fofana, again, he's a French national team player. Don't you think a coach like Conte will be able to get the best out of this guy? So what you're then picking on, maybe it's just the defenders. Pavlovic, I'm sorry, this guy's probably like, he to me personally, he's okay, but not good enough if you want to go for like a Scudetto charge. Tomori, he's done. He's got done. Gabbia still has a bit of credit in the bank. Nothing major is going to happen to him. Again, with his academy product status, he's pretty much safe. So an overhaul would happen, but it wouldn't be like a major overhaul, if I have to say that.
Yeah, no, I think you're correct. And so Fahadinho's echoing that sentiment as well, right? So he said, let's be clear, during summer, the majority of the fans wanted Conte. Of course, we did, of course. But the thing is we're no longer a serious club. This is the thing. And serious clubs go after serious managers. And somehow, Napoli got Conte. And we didn't. That should tell you all you need to know. Not overlooking Hosni, this was exactly the reason why fans wanted Conte. Not because he's a winner, because he knows how to construct a team, build a system that lasts. All valid points. But meanwhile, we're at the level where we're going to fire Cancelo now. And to be honest, I've no issue with firing him. The only concern I have is that, this management can't make any calls on anything. So we're going to go into a new window, which we're going to discuss now. We're going to go into a new window with new sporting director, and we still don't know who our manager is going to be. And we're supposed to build a team based around, what? Like, what sporting philosophy do we have? We don't know.
At that point, Shane, because after the game yesterday, I was looking at my phone because I just want to be alert with the updates.
Sure.
Does it make any sense to you why they haven't announced Conceição leaving yet?
Probably because they don't know.
This is what I'm thinking. So I think Conceição may be staying. Yeah.
To be honest, Iglitare, right, has dealt with complete mediocrity for most of his career. Therefore, there's no reason to expect that he would do anything different here. It wouldn't make. To be honest, it would make sense to me if they just keep on Conceição. This is Conceição as well that, has not covered himself in glory this season with us. And if reports are to be believed, it's Rangers' last game for the club. Reports are as well that he actually wanted to stay here at a reduced wage, but that, essentially ownership have basically said that, no, the offer is too good, you have to go. And you could see that a bit yesterday because he kind of stayed on the pitch a lot longer than everyone else did with his kiddo. And that's kind of in a way of, saying goodbye to the fans. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
Because, because I think the problem is with Rangers is I'm not saying he's world class. I'm definitely not saying that. But if he was Italian, fans would be up in arms that he's getting sold. But because he's kind of a Redbird purchase, we can't go through this cycle where we're basically selling our best midfielders because we've seen how this works out. And in historical fashion, they'll go and do the same thing if we're lucky. They might buy one or two 20 million players, hope one of them works out. Neither of them will. We'll end up with another Musa, another RLC, and then we'll wonder, why the fuck aren't we even qualifying for the Conference League next year?
Yeah. So on the Reindeers thing, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Reindeers, he's good. No one is saying that he's a bad player, but he's not world class. And for me, how to put it very much in context, he's not Tonali. So we don't have the same level of attachment with Reindeers as with Tonali, and because the team did poorly, he's one of those that say that fine, and he can be put in the shop window.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Hosni, I've said this in our chat, in the Milanistas 360 chat. Sorry, guys, if anyone out there is watching, you want to join it, hit us up on, Instagram, or hit me up on X. So at Milanistas 360, Milanistas 360 on Insta, right? If you want to join, have a look at that and you win. But I said on that chat, basically, that the vibe with Rangers is very similar to the vibe I have with Çalhanoğlu. People will be kind of at best indifferent that he's going. But then when he goes, and I have a feeling that he'll absolutely ball out at Man City because he'll have players of quality around him that can make him flourish. And then we'll look back and we'll look at the great player that he'll probably become, and then we'll go, oh, well, we sold him. It's like, yes, we did. Çalhanoğlu, I know, different circumstance. Greater act of betrayal going across the city to Inter. I get all that. However, this to me kind of rhymes a bit. I think we'll be looking back at this and we'll kind of go, we sold a player now that's probably worth 120, 130 million for 70, and we were calling it a good deal.
Yeah, you're right. And with the profile that Reindeers has, I would say he's a little bit replaceable. So Cassie leaving, I thought was a bigger impact. Benacer, if he's able to rediscover his form, he's actually a better player than Rangers even.
But but the thing is he's so Benacer is coming back from Marseille
Yeah. So whatever
because
he said about, remember that his parting message when he left the club. Well,
yeah.
I think it's gonna come back and bite him.
Well, he's burnt his bridges at the club, so he's obviously going to go. I mean, there's no way that he stays on. I doubt it.
Maybe they'll force him to play the preseason. I don't know. The club is strange, you know.
Maybe, maybe. But then, yeah. So just again, if it's not Tijani, it's going to be Leo. But it's going to be some player that that they can recoup 70 million on, right?
Definitely Theo.
And
Theo's gone, guys.
Teo's gone.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. I think with Teo again, just like I said earlier, I think if you had a sporting director that was at the club that was guiding you of Maldini's stature, you would then go on and become what you're meant to be, which is a world class player. I think hopefully my main hope for Theo is that he goes to a very serious club, you know, becomes one of the best players in his position worldwide, and then that's the ultimate fuck you to this hopeless management. Same with the Gianni Rangers as well. If it's possible or not, don't know. That's what I hope happens.
Yeah, on that point,
Um,
I completely agree with you. And if this management had any brains, don't sell them to another Serie A team.
no,
Please, for the life of
Husney.
yeah.
This is the thing. Right? Because I was thinking about it. I could say because the way Theo enjoys life in Italy, apparently, and that's why he was trying so hard to get a renewal. Right? I could see him going to somewhere like Juve, or do you know what? As because this management don't seem very content at making fans hate them. I could see Theo ending up at Inter.
Yeah, they're willing to pay. They will make the move, by the way. They'll say that, hey,
That's it.
we know what your offer is. Here's the extra million.
That's it.
Many
And
players
that's
wouldn't bat an eye to putting their name on that dotted line.
no. And I wouldn't blame Theo if he did. Would you? Because I'd be like, well, look, I mean, if the club that kind of springboarded you has become a farce because of the owners, why are you going to give them any respect when deciding who you want to sign for?
Yeah,
If
probably being
in
shit
fact,
on. Yeah.
yeah, I'd have animosity, especially in Teo's case. I mean, when is since he's came?
Never, I think. No, they weren't even looking. I think the last guy to seriously challenge Theo for that spot, who was it? Yeah, when he joined, it was Diego Laxalt, if you guys remember that name.
Oh God, yeah, him. So I mean, there's Theo has been ran into the ground, and then his gift has been indifference from Mr. Harvard educated Excel spreadsheet wizard there. And yeah, just to echo Milanismo report, so very own Nico, good to see you, man. Ayo, Theo will be missed, and he will. But I'll miss the original Theo where he had proper guidance. I think the Theo for the last couple of seasons since Maldini left, you could tell he's checked out on this project as well. The good thing is with Theo, at least he's been able to get, kept getting paid and siphon money out of these cunts' pockets. So that's one nice part about it. But
Not
yeah.
only that, and we spoke about this many pods ago, Shane. A big plus of some of the players that, performance notwithstanding, is the fact that they're available. So I can't remember the last time Theo has had a very serious injury that has taken him, I don't know what, out for like 6 months. We have some of the players, those sort of players that completely disappear from the radar, and you don't know what's going on with them, and only to come
Paco,
back. Then
Okafor was like, I mean, injured every second game.
Yeah, there's many of them. Okafor, Florenzi, Calabria for a while, injured. Mike, very much along the same path. So
That's the thing. I mean, Teo, to be honest, I only wish him well. I really hope he goes to just a really high-end football club, because I really think he'll become that level. TJ, less sure about. Tijani Rangers, less sure about. However, I hope the same for him as well, because to be honest, I'm at the level now where the more bad decisions that this ownership can be seen to be make, the more just I can enjoy them being a laughing stock. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Um, so last slide. Summary of plastic fan criticisms. Yeah, there's no clear sporting project. Who knew? Only us plastic fans knew that. Financial motives over football success. Again, who knew? Disconnect from Milan's identity. Who knew? Decline in results domestically and in Europe. The good thing is our results won't decline in Europe next year, because we're not even in any European competition. So, alienation of fans, and loss of trust. And in the background there, I probably should have made the photo show a bit more, so it was a bit more visible. But that's the Corvez message to basically all the rest of the fans yesterday, which was go home. And then they left on the 15th minute. So I don't know. To be honest, lining all this up though, Hosni, if my opinions here, right, and the breakdown of the points on this final slide, if that's what makes me a plastic fan, right, I'd rather be a plastic fan to the guy who started supporting, Milan in whatever 2000 and whatever 3 or 5 or whatever, even though I'm a plastic fan, and even talking about Boban, right? I remembered playing fucking football in my backyard in Ireland in 97, 98, trying to score fucking free kicks like Svanimir Boban. So, but you can call me a plastic fan away, my friend, because I'd rather be a plastic fan that's realistic, that wants the best for this club, understanding that this fucking toxic ownership will never give me that, than be like you fucking deluded idiot. Anyway, that's all I have to say in it.
yeah, I agree with you. And as another plastic fan, as you've put it, what you've actually written in these slides, this was everything that the plastic fans had warned of ever since Redbird took over and started making the moves that they did. You could already tell this was going to happen. I mean, talk about vindication, right? It's like just a recap of this conversation that was that happened 2 years ago, 2 years plus ago.
Yeah. Husney, do you know what the worst thing is as well? We've been right so far, man, right? But the thing is I can see, right? I can see with Redbird retaining ownership, right? I can see this is going to be a decade-long banter era. So imagine 10 last years. Inter probably winning Champions Leagues, Serie A titles. There's a possibility that we, that Inter could get more Champions Leagues than we will in that time.
Yeah, because I think in terms, so if you look at the stretch that when we were very dominant in Europe, that was like what, only 20 years? So it doesn't take that long. If you look at it in context, it doesn't take that long
No.
actually to really build up your trophy cabinet. Yeah, if you have very strong
No, it
team and a
doesn't.
solid project. Yeah,
There we go. To be honest, Nico, any kids nowadays, it's time to support another club. Any kid, I couldn't in good faith try and suggest to a child nowadays go and support Milan. because there's nothing wholesome or based in good things. Milan was based in good things. It was based in having an Italian core, having authenticity, and being the best fucking team in Italy. That's what it was based on. Now that's Inter, and it'll probably be that way for the next decade. I couldn't under any circumstances, I couldn't recommend to a poor innocent child to go and support this fucking, Redbird shit show. I can't, because you're just, that there's nothing going to happen. Like the fact, right? So what's really nailing this home, right? And what's so disappointing, because I said it to you, Husney, and to you, Nico, and to you, John, when you watched this, like we were having a private chat about this. And I mentioned, I'm so saddened. I'm really sad and I'm upset because, it's probably the last time that we could potentially see Leao and Theo, right? And management didn't even, they didn't even give us a couple of minutes. Well, they give Leao a couple of minutes on the pitch, but even Theo, didn't even have the dignity and the self-respect to actually do the right thing and give Theo a full game for his last game.
No, they reserved that send off for Joao Felix.
How sad is that? Yeah, but you know what I mean, Husney? Like there must be some sort of to say that they're getting everything wrong and trying to piss off a load of fans as quickly as possible, right? This can only be planned. This has to be planned, right? I'm because I was thinking about this, right? And sorry, I know we've been at it a while, but there's just one last point and then we can finish up, right? Like I was thinking about this yesterday, right? And it's like they're going at this so perfectly, right? As in just pissing off Milan fans basically across the board. I was thinking maybe what Boban said is just them kind of ramping up efforts to basically cut off any long-term fans, and try and get in a couple of guys that don't really give a shit about the club because, they can always focus on fucking whatever their basketball or fucking NBA, I don't know, fucking whatever baseball club is fucking doing, right? Because they'll be too busy giving a shit to know that, Milan have been relegated to Serie B because all that matters is they can buy a nice red and black jersey.
Explains the preseason, by the way. 2 stops in Asia, 1 in Australia. You know where they're going for.
No, 100%. Like it's the only thing that makes sense. It's basically dump off the long-running fangs because you don't really need them anymore because they would be, they would be an obstacle to you. Right, and then just get in a load of guys that just buy merch. It's the only thing that makes sense. Like because everything they're doing is perfect, and it's you can't fuck up if you're a person of somewhat intelligence. If God bless your soul, right, and you're lucky enough that you're not born with something like Down syndrome or some sort of very serious thing where you have functioning capacity, right? You cannot fuck up all of these things together as expertly as they have without doing it on purpose.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have a club that's owned and run by like sociopaths, right? You don't know the depths at which they are willing to go to.
No, dude, there has to be some sort of end game though. Because if I'm convinced that they're knowingly doing this, right? I'm convinced. But the thing is
I go back to this comment.
Game is that.
Sorry, Shane. I go back to this comment in our chat. Someone was saying that Jerry, Furlani, they have to be Inter fans with how they're running things, right? They really have to be Inter fans.
Yeah, well, he's done more for the Inter cause than the Milan one. Also, shout out Jose B. I missed the comment now. Let's scrolling. by too fast. So 2 comments, Jose B. Jose, all I know, if Tare could control a sinking ship and get top 4, would it be a successful season? Not getting relegated would be a fucking successful season, judging by the current the current trajectory of the club. But top 4 would be. The problem is then it kind of reinforces the fact that Redbird know what they're doing. So I'd rather see them fail hard again. Ideally, a lower mid-level table finish for me would help. So Jose, that was a slap in the face. Felix got time instead of Teo and Leao. That was comical and brutal. It made Leao unfollow Milan Banterere madness. No, so the unfollowing I think happened before the game. And this is why I think essentially he's gone. I think the Chelsea rumours are probably true and he's done. Leao is done. And that's what I'm saying about it's just sad. Because Leao could still be the player that, with the right buys and if things were done correctly, I mean, it could be us in the Champions League against PSG.
Should be accessible.
It's just it's so disappointing. And again, there must be and John said in the comments, they alienate us, right? Every chance they get. And I think the way that they're planning this out, right? I think if you're dealing with hedge funds, right, it's 4D chess. And I think this is probably, they're purposely doing things because they just want to get rid of all the old fans as quickly as possible. Because you can't make this many perfectly executed bad decisions, you see. Not when there's this amount of money involved, and I think the only thing is just because they want to get rid of us. But the problem is, you see, is that even as I'm thinking that, because I'll never go, because the fact that someone wants to get rid of me means I'll never go. I'm a stubborn motherfucker like that, as you are, Hosni, and a lot of us fucking plastic traditional fans are. Yeah, I got you, Hosni. Anyway, sorry, dude. I think it's we'll be patient, John. But to be honest, there's no point in even being patient because being patient infers that you expect something will end.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. So
yeah. So some strong opinions there, and I do echo a lot of what you said there, Shane. We always, and I've said this before, that with every win, you hope that's the win to turn the corner, right? But it's never going to be that. Yeah, we're never going to turn the corner with the way things are. And if we somehow did turn the corner, something has to come out of the blue and completely knock us off. Because do you remember that hype?
We can't.
Sorry, do you remember the hype? The 3-4-3, getting into the final of the Copa. You really wanted to believe that the worst was behind you, but nah, we're still in the shit.
Yeah, but it's just but the thing is as well, Hosni, right? I know, sorry guys, we're going to wrap up soon because we've been at this for a while. But just the thing as well, Hosni, it's not, we said this when Moneyball was first this thing, that it is not possible to succeed with Moneyball because for Moneyball to be successful, it means getting rid of your best players at a good markup and getting in then unproven ones at a cheaper price, and that's all we're going to do. We're going to be a selling team. We're no more serious than, I don't know,
Empoli,
who turns out decent. Empoli.
That's our level now. Empoli, Torino.
This is it's very much our level. It's not feasible. We need new ownership, and that's the way it is. And I'm just going to be beating the drum here for the next 10 years, I think, genuinely saying that. Anyway,
All right.
on that happy note,
Yep. I just want to say thanks to everyone who's joined us. And yeah, I don't say this enough, but I do want to thank everyone if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, whichever platform. You guys are great. We've grown quite a bit. We're more than 200. I think what the count is 201 or maybe 202 subscribers. It wouldn't have been possible without you guys. So we've really grown as a channel, as a community. We encourage and we welcome anyone else to join as well. Don't worry, we are well behaved for the most part. And trying to keep everything together and be sane with the way things are is a challenge, but we can do this together as fans.
100%. Just be plastic and traditional. Don't be like one of these new age cunts that found a Milan jersey on the fucking sidewalk in 2003 and next thing became a Milan fan. Don't go that route. Learn about the history of the club and you'd realize that what's happening today is nowhere near the levels of where this club needs to be. Also, a shout out as well, a special thanks to Fahadinho because he's always very vocal on the videos and in the chat as well. And your support is very much. Shout out to Nico as well for joining. Shout out to Jose as well. Nice to see you, man. John. Who else?
Kim.
Fuck
Yeah.
anyway. Kim. Sorry, dude. Kim as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Realistic
Art,
Milanista. So Art, Angelo, some gobshite called Skillard.
That guy's trouble, I heard.
He's trouble, yeah. No. Good, man. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks again. Yeah, for Milan as always. And those season's over. And yeah, we'll see when we can schedule the next pod, see what's been happening. Maybe if what's to believe that there'll be announcements next week, we can cover that in the next discussion. And of course, thanks to you, Shane, my trusted, and also to John and Nico, best co-hosts and admins of the channel that you could ever hope for. As a team, I think it's an understatement to say we've accomplished wonders.
That's it.
All right.
All right.
Forza Milan. Till next week, guys.
Forza
Bye.
Plastic fans.
Forza Starfish.
Che comunque il calcio è imprevedibile e le cose non sono mai scontate, quindi è anche la bellezza, no, di questo sport.
Io rappresentavo per questa squadra, era quello che non mollava mai, quello che doveva fare stare sempre su il morale, ma io mi ci trovavo bene perché sono sempre stato uno che mi piaceva dare fuoco ai miei compagni, incaricarli prima delle partite.
Il mio sogno di si è avverato, è uno dei sogni dei bambini, di tanti bambini.
Il gol è un qualcosa per la gente che riusciamo a fare diventare matti, riusciamo a fare diventare felici e contenti.
Con questa maglia devo veramente fare una performance diversa perché sto rappresentando